corruption. So everybody is on the streets, the newspapers are full of it, and we must thank a gentleman called Anna Hazare for that. But not too many people actually understand what corruption is. It's not bribery. The word is actually derived from intensified rupture. Cor means intensified and rupt means ruptured. So corruption means seriously ruptured. And when the system is seriously ruptured, that is corruption. It is much more than bribery alone. Now I did hear those eloquent words from Nani Palkiwala, and I'm in complete disagreement with it. Because actually, there are some standard excuses. See, corruption, like anything else, it's like technology. It can be studied. It's not an emotional state of mind. It is something that can be studied. It is something that is curable, and it has been cured even in this country, and it has been cured very rapidly in many other parts of the country, in parts of the world. So the first thing is not to lament about it. Every single country has had a period when there was corruption. The United States, between 1865, after the end of the Civil War, and 1930 till the beginning of the Depression, was one of the most corrupt countries. The kind of corruption that used to happen in the United States, the fleecing of immigrants, the buying up of the judiciary, complete nexus between business and politicians is unprecedented. And yet they cleaned up. Now, nobody has a cultural predilection to anything. Now, today, if I talk about the Japanese, what is your first impression about the Japanese? There are a lot of emails that circulate which say that look at the Japanese, they are so proud of their country, and they are so polite, and they are so, shall I say, so courageous in the face of misfortune. And even in the middle of the tsunami, they were all, so polite, and they were looking after others. And I see a lot of mail saying, why can't Indians be like that? If 70 years back you had asked anybody what you thought about the Japanese, the impression would have been that they are a bloodthirsty, lawless people. Because during the Second World War, they were probably the most bloodthirsty of the aggressors. They did not follow the Geneva Convention. So what happened between the 1945 and 2010? Did the Japanese undergo some genetic transformation? No. So it's exactly for the same reason that one should not believe in Palkiwala's lament. Because lamenting is a very good way of getting out of finding a solution. Everything is curable. Even diseases are curable. Earlier it was thought that smallpox was caused by Sitala Mata. But then you identified that there was a pathogen, and then you killed it. Corruption is like that. You've got to identify the pathogen. There's a science about it. In fact, the first is that nothing can be done about it. Nothing should be done about it. That's a lot of business people say that. Why should I do it? If corruption is what gives me the competitive edge. If I don't bribe, mera dhanda ka kya hoga? That's an excuse that you hear. But you have to analyze. And if you analyze corruption, there are 7 invalid excuses why we condone and permit corruption. One is that corruption is there everywhere. Corruption always existed. There's a very popular email which goes on. It starts looking into the Puranas and our history, and it says, see, Indians are transactional in nature, Hinduism is transactional, so we are all born corrupt. Sorry. The history of any country for that matter, if you dig back enough, you will find stories to support any theory that you want. If you read the Bhagavad Gita, you can support anything from heroism to abject failure. Everything is there. And I'm sure in Britain, they must be now analyzing why British people are looting, right? Because you always thought that Britain is this great fountain of democracy, Magna Carta, uninterrupted democracy, and so on and so forth. But you just saw in 1 week how it was as bad as any other riot in India. So what happens to your cultural theories about the whites being better? Because there's another sad thing which is going on where somebody quotes Churchill of all the people to show that India is such a rotten place. I don't need Churchill to tell that, right? The third is that it is vague and it is culturally determined. Like gift giving is okay in some cultures, it is not considered corruption elsewhere. Fair enough, no problem. There are differences. For instance, in India, nepotism is not even considered a crime. It's supposed to be expected of you. Even in the corporate sector or in the government sector, you are supposed to help your people, your caste, etc. Whereas in the United States, that would be frowned upon. On the other hand, sexual indiscretion in India is totally no. I mean, you have the Swedish Prime Minister comes to India with his or her partner, No eyebrows are raised in Sweden. But if you catch Manmohan Singh going abroad with his girlfriend, if he has one, you're really going to have a problem there. So that is exactly, so there is some cultural determination there about what are the guiding standards for a country, but it still doesn't mean that there is no definition of corruption. The fourth is that cleansing will require a whole change of attitudes and values. Zamana kharab ho gaya, bacche sab kharab hote hain, and all that stuff goes on. Then of course, the business argument, it's not harmful, it's what keeps the economic engine moving. The sixth excuse is nothing can be done to the top is corrupt, corruption is systematic, everybody collects. But the last is a very pernicious argument which says corruption will go because of the free market, because of liberalization, corruption will go. I'll deal with that at a later stage. But corruption, one thing is clear, it destroys countries, it destroys governance, both in the government, it destroys corporate governance, it distorts markets. It completely distorts markets, it adds on a cost to the consumer, it erodes the quality of life. Over the past 4 days in Bangalore, you've been having tremendous rain. And there are a lot of protesters on the road. And they don't have to protest against corruption, they just have to look down. Because the roads have completely disappeared in 4 days. Now a city with 500 millimeters of rain cannot have their roads destroyed like this. But there are any number of Bangalore City Corporation contractors who come and tell me on condition of anonymity that the bribes that they pay is 37% at all levels. To get the estimates approved, to get their payments through, everything. So that is the kind of the quality of life that is being eroded today because of corruption. It also allows a lot of organized crime, terrorism, other threats to human security to flourish. It's easy, you can pay a bribe to somebody and have a bomb installed today. On the economic side, which is very relevant for the private sector, is that it distorts the complete incentive structure. Political cost by undermining institutions. I mean, Operation Lotus in Karnataka, purchase of MLAs, bribing of votes. I mean, it's a distortion of bribing of voters, it's all distortion of democracy. There's a massive social cost. Some of us think it's okay to pay a bribe for getting something. But what happens when you pay a bribe is that the government department that demands a bribe from you ups its market price for the poor person. And by you paying a bribe which doesn't hurt you, it hurts a poor person because the service becomes unaffordable. And the last thing is that there's an opportunity cost. By continuing bribery, you don't need to reform. You don't need to improve systems. And there are any number of examples that I can give you. So there's a moral dimension which I don't agree with. There's an economic dimension, yes, it's measurable. There's a business dimension that, okay, fine, if I'm paying a bribe, I just pass it down to my consumer. The other day I was talking to the chairperson of the Builders Association in Karnataka, and he says if corruption is zero, the cost of a flat will come down by 15 to 17%. He's done a calculation, he said he would share it with us. So there's a need to deal with the behavioral and the structural aspects of corruption, and like everything else, corruption has got a scientific formula. It equals monopoly plus discretion minus accountability. Across the private sector, across the government sector. Let me give you a government example of a monopoly being corrupt. The telephones department. The day you demonopolized and there was a free market in telephone, the consumer had a choice. The old days when you had to bribe VSNL or whatever, the telephone department before it became a company is gone. Now in the private sector too it happens. I know Massey Ferguson tractors because I used to be in the rural sector. Now the agents of the Massey Ferguson tractors used to take a bribe because we used to give government subsidies to poor farmers. But when they went to collect their tractor, they were told, not now, but you had to pay a bribe. You wouldn't deny it to you, but you would delay it. And that was because there was a monopoly. Similarly for car allocations, anybody who remembers 85 to 88, how difficult it was to get a Maruti allocation. And there was a lot of premium for getting a Maruti dealership. Maruti dealerships only went to ministers and their children and their Benami agents. Today you want to buy a car, there will be 20 guys standing in front of you with offers of test drive and interest-free loans and so on and so forth. So demonopolization is a very good way of reducing corruption. Taking out discretion. Now if you look at income tax refunds, except for a small number of refunds which are more than 1 lakh rupees, all refunds today are automated. If you go to the Cochin SEZ, and this has been reported to us by a business person, that's why I'm quoting. If you go to the Cochin SEZ, you can get your VAT refund in 5 weeks. No questions asked, no bribes paid, nothing, absolutely nothing. Completely automated. And that's where the net comes into the picture. Of course, government websites are pretty bad, but there are some government websites which are pretty good, where you can track your application. VAT is a classic example. Similarly, income tax refunds is a classic example where the net is helping to reduce discretion, taking away discretion completely. And then you have accountability. Yes, you can increase accountability, and that is where the Lokpal comes in. So let us remember one thing, the Lokpal is not a magic solution. You can have a very strong Lokpal, but if you do not reduce monopolies, and if you do not reduce discretion, if you don't reduce the value of M and D, you can increase the value of A, but sometimes it might not be cost effective. So the Lokpal, don't ever believe anybody who tells you that the Lokpal is a magic wand. It is not a complete solution. It is a solution that is confined itself only to accountability. Now let us look at the taxonomy of corruption. Now any doctor will tell you that before you start looking at disease, you need to classify. So I am going to come into various ways in which you can classify corruption. One is by the spread. Retail corruption is what you see over the counter, transactions, harassment transactions, speed money, getting your ration card, getting your passport verification, paying for a birth certificate, getting an electricity connection transferred. And then you have wholesale corruption, which is at the very top. Now what are the big 5 ways in which wholesale corruption happens in this country? It's apparent. One is land, urban land, big time money in every city. Number 2, natural resources. Look at what is happening to the Reddy brothers. So natural resources, how do you allocate? Third is government procurements, big corruption there. Fourth is using insider knowledge. Using insider knowledge, I am a cabinet minister, I know where the airport is going to come, I go and buy 20,000 acres there. So I game the system. And the last is when you begin to actually do some tweaking in the law to help somebody and you get a cut later on. An excise duty tweak. So you do policy changes for a bribe. So these are the big 5 ways of grand corruption. They call grand corruption or wholesale corruption. And retail corruption is what you see at the ground level. Individually, earlier, all corruption used to be by freelancers. I mean, occasionally people would become corrupt because they would find out that they are not going to get caught. So they try to become corrupt. But today a very dangerous phenomenon is happening, and this is dangerous, that wholesale and retail corruption are now getting linked up. That is called syndicated corruption or hyper corruption, where there is a quota system that operates. A sub-registrar's office has got a quota system. And the system is not only within the government, along with it there are also lawyers, builders agents and chartered accountants. They persuade you to pay a bribe. Almost it becomes a norm. It's factored into the cost. It becomes a combination of an unholy alliance between the private and the public sector. Then you have private sector corruption. Not very much spoken about, everybody likes to blame the government. And let me tell you, Anna Hazare is not going to catch this, because the law is not strong enough to catch this, which I will come to at a later stage. One is within corporates, the corruption that takes place, HR, procurement, cheating on bills. We get a lot of stories reported on iPayAbribe.com. Between corporates, kickbacks for deals, etc. Professional corporation corruption, unethical practices by lawyers, CAs, doctors in violation of their codes of conduct, and of course between corporates and government. Then of course I have seen something called need-based corruption and greed-based corruption. Need-based corruption is you take a policeman, they hardly get any TA or DA. So a man is standing on the road for 12 hours, he goes and picks up a coffee and doesn't pay. Now policemen also have the mortification of having to go around and collect a mamul. But if you look at the economics of a police station, they do not get any impressed funding at all. And they are asked to do a lot of things which require a lot of informal funding. Secret service payments are made, secret service payments are misused, but they have to pay informers. Even for genuine investigations, they have to pay to get information. Then of course you have prepaid and postpaid arrangements, particularly in the syndicated corruption system, where you got to pay for a transfer and then you got to pay a monthly payment. That again happens in the excise, in the taxation departments. In Karnataka now it has been exposed in mining. You pay for a posting and then you got to pay every month. But sadly, it's also coming into education, into health, etc. You have to pay, and so ministers make a lot of money that way. But let us remember one thing, corruption is not a crime of passion. No Indian is born corrupt. Nobody anywhere in the world is born corrupt. Countries have cleaned up very fast. Corruption is a crime of calculation. I calculate whether I can game the system for that day. If it is Dheela, I will play a game because nobody is a saint. Simple question. Medical bills in private companies, if there's no scrutiny, you will play the game. The moment you get an HR guy who is little tough, you will say, अच्छा अभी नहीं करना, इनका transfer होने दो या इनका resignation होने दो, उसके बाद हम करेंगे. So people actually, they tune themselves. Very few people are saints who will never bribe or who are completely honest, but most people are, they play the game. So large numbers get into corruption and they drift out. If you make the calculation risky, they stop being corrupt, and that's all that you need. In fact, if you take, classic example is if you take the case of Ukraine and if you take the case of Georgia, both were part of the old USSR, both had a socialist legacy. Georgia is today considered the 4th cleanest country in the world. If you go to the Economist magazine, they have a one-page advertisement which just says Georgia listed at number 4 by Transparency International. That's it. That is a USP. They are selling it. How did they do it? Did they suddenly do kind of counseling, or did everybody go for an art of living course or something? No, nothing. It's just that they actually cleaned up their systems and made them corruption free. Made their transactions, they simplified the rules, reduced red tape, reduced monopolies, and then when you hit a critical mass of honesty, then the corrupt person becomes the black sheep. Right now the honest person is a black sheep. Because the system is so disrupted that everybody can become corrupt. So if you're honest, you stand out. But if you hit a critical mass of 30% of the people being clean, then everybody becomes clean. Now, I told you that some people say that liberalization can reduce corruption. No, not in the long run, not in the short run. In the short run, liberalization increases corruption. You look at Russia. The reason is that everybody thinks that free market is really a free market. It isn't. A free market has got very robust and strong regulatory institutions. And even then, people play games. Look at Enron. They got caught. They still, in spite, they escaped the scrutiny of regulation. Now in India, the problem is that the ingenuity that is available to all of us as free market game players is much higher, and our Reserve Bank and our SEBI and our TRAI or our Electricity Regulatory Commissions have not kept pace with the ingenuity shown in corruption. So corruption will go up. That's why you have Metas, that's why you had Harshad Mehta. But then as when our regulatory institutions become very strong, it can come down. Corruption can come down. Now let me just look at 3 initiatives, and I will come to our approach, the net approach, the last. Lokpal Bill. Now Lokpal Bill, actually, it is only part of the A, as I said. And in my opinion today, I think the fast is unjustified. I thought the first fast was justified because the government was not moving at all. But once a law has been discussed, it's been discussed threadbare, it is in Parliament, I don't think anybody should be fasting to force Parliament to take a particular decision. You can always now approach Parliament through your MP. And the MPs are not insulated completely from the reality. Let us remember that this country, these same rascals, MPs, they passed the Right to Information Act. And it's one of the most powerful acts in the world. It took time. It took 17 years. Maybe we'll have a good Lokpal Act in 3 years or 4 years. But after the law has reached Parliament, I think this is brinkmanship. I don't think anybody should be fasting. In any case, this issue, there's no problem really. On how many jurisdiction, this is the problem. The real core of the fight between Anna Hazare's group and the government is whether Prime Minister should be included, whether the judiciary should be included, whether the MPs in Parliament should be included, and whether there should be a single law for the center and states. In my opinion, Prime Minister should be included, not included now, doesn't matter, let's go and implement the act. Judiciary, I don't think the judiciary should come under the Lokpal, because the Lokpal, let us see, it's a fledgling institution. You can't ask this infant institution to suddenly take care of everything. This whole messiah syndrome is being propagated. The Lokpal will not be equal to the task. Getting rid of a judge is a very tough thing. In 65 years, only today, yesterday, for the first time, one judge has been impeached by half of Parliament. We still haven't gone to the Lok Sabha. MPs in parliament, I think that they should come under the Lokpal, but if they have not, never mind, I think we should go and implement. I do not agree that we need a single law for center and states. Yes, now they've agreed. Now they've agreed. My point is that it's all now become tactical. The point is that the fast is now become a tactic. Earlier it was used as a genuine thing. In fact, on my blog, I have actually quoted Mahatma Gandhi and on that basis supported the fast the first time. But I don't think you can quote Mahatma Gandhi today to support a fast, particularly when the act is already in parliament. Having said that, the biggest thing that Anna Hazare has done is they have put corruption on the front page for the last 15 months. And I think for that we have to thank them. Every Indian today is at least reading about corruption. TV mein it's breaking news. Everywhere it's there. That we had pushed it under the carpet for too long. So to the extent that he has raised the level of debate, it's fine. But 90% of the people who are on the road today, standing, holding a banner, etc., don't have a clue why they are there. The powers also now, one very big concession made in the Government of India Act is, while the Government of India Act does not say that the Central Vigilance Commission will be merged with the Lokpal, it says that the Lokpal can create its own investigation and prosecution wing. That is very, very, very powerful. And I think that is going to be really the big thing. It all depends. If you look at history, it all depends upon the first incumbent. The incumbent is going to make a difference. Let me take the example of CIC, Central Information Commission. The first man there was Mr. Wajat Habibullah. Absolutely straight guy. He was my boss. Incredible chap. Now he has set a standard that nobody can dilute. In the election commission, that did not happen. We had to wait for 40 years till Sheshan came there. Now Sheshan has set a standard which nobody can dilute. So to my mind, the first Lokpal is going to be absolutely super critical. If you have a Dhila first Lokpal, you had a problem. But if that first Lokpal is, and let me tell you, it takes 5 years to establish the institution. So at that time to feed it this rich diet and say ki tum Prime Minister se pyun tak dekho, I don't think it's possible. Yes. So it all depends. Ultimately we have to put our faith in individuals.
What if Lokpal itself becomes corrupt?
Exactly. As Shakespeare said, if the salt is not salty, then who will salted the salt? The buck should stop somewhere.
Just for this discussion now, if something happens to Anna Hazare,
I don't know. That's politics. To my mind, that is basically not the core issue. That's real politics.
saying he is on fast from last 68 hours.
Yeah.
Goes on and he
Yeah.
dies, then what?
I don't know. I really don't know. But I must tell you one thing. Look at how the politics is panning out. The Congress did a very smart thing by immediately writing to all the states. 11 states in this country are ruled by the BJP. So they wrote to all the states asking, what's your opinion? Now in heart...
That they should have done at the first level.
No, they did it then. They did it when the discussion started. Right? Now the BJP people have done a very smart thing. They don't want to commit themselves to saying no. Heart of hearts, I don't think they are going to agree. If they were in this... See, if Kapil Sibal were replaced by Arun Jaitley, they would say exactly the same thing. Right? So now these guys are sitting and enjoying the discomfiture of the Congress. And of course the Congress has handled it badly. But the fact of the matter is that some of our most corrupt governments today in the states are actually BJP governments. Simply for the fact that there are more BJP governments in states than Congress governments. So, so the point is that now, there's a political polarization around this issue. So one doesn't know how it will pan out. For instance, Parliament has been disrupted on the question of Anna's arrest. But have you heard a single MP in Parliament debating about the content of the two bills? No. Have you seen a single comparative statement of the two bills? No. So these are some of the things that people are. Yeah, very good. Yeah. No. There's a selection committee. There is a selection committee, and very interesting. I'll tell you, it's a very interesting evolution. The government Lokpal bill, the first draft of the government Lokpal bill said that the vice president would be heading the committee. Right? Very strangely, Anna Hazare's bill says the prime minister will head the committee. That's very funny. No, 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 no. They are there. No, 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 no. Who said that? There's nothing of that nature. Absolutely nothing of that nature. Which is why you shouldn't believe 99% of what is written in the press. Exactly. I mean, really, honestly, because I haven't seen actually a juxtaposition of the two. I can email to you something that I have done internally. In fact, if you go to the website, because one of our tasks is to provide a balanced. Where is it? It's on India Against Corruption website. I'll have to take a look at it. Because one of the biases that they are saying is that if an NGO complains against an official, and if it is found to be untrue, then you can prosecute the NGO. Right? I don't think there's anything wrong in it. Because let me tell you something, an honest officer in the government really is alone. I am now supporting the case of one honest officer in the government. His name is Harish Baijal. He is the DCP in anti-vigilance in Nasik. He has been transferred. He is fighting the case himself. He is paying money from his pocket and fighting the case. Now tell me whether anybody in the government or Anna Hazare or anybody will support a gentleman like this, because government is just full of people that you love to hate. Therefore, these safeguards are required because now you have given suo moto power. So if you give the Lokpal suo moto power, then to instill a sense of responsibility on citizens not to make frivolous complaints, you got to have a counter provision. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. Otherwise, you will have kangaroo courts. Now, the most important thing is, if I'm a student in a government college, and I pay a bribe of 50 rupees to the peon to get my attendance, the peon has committed a crime under the Prevention of Corruption Act, because he's a government servant. If I do exactly the same thing in a private college, it is not a crime. Because under the Prevention of Corruption Act, it is one of the weakest definitions of corruption in any law. Only two things are considered as corruption under the Prevention of Corruption Act. That is bribery of national public officials and embezzlement, misappropriation and other diversion of property by a public official. Whereas the United Nations Convention of Corruption recognizes 12 things as corruption, including private sector corruption. And it is a matter of shame that till June this year, India had not ratified the UN Convention. Only 17 countries were left, and we were one of them. So we ran a huge campaign saying, unless you enlarge the definition of corruption, you can have a very strong Lokpal, but he will go technically by the law and only catch private people. No, that may be so, but it's if you, no, but that is not the issue. The issue is a public official doing the same thing commits the act of corruption. A private official doing exactly the same thing is not committing an act of corruption under the law. You need to have a uniform law. Yes. Yes, exactly. It is not corruption, whereas in the United States it will be corruption. In the UK you have the Bribery Act, under which it will be corruption. So we actually ran a thing, and now the government has ratified the convention, and all this will become corruption. And this is the kind of definition of corruption you should have if you want to catch people. Bribery of foreign public officials, officials of public international organizations is corruption. Trading in influence is corruption. Abuse of functions is corruption. Bribery in the private sector. Here today, if a builder's agent bribes, the builder can dismiss the agent, but the building company is not liable. Today, builders actually support corruption by standing side by side with the registration department. But can you prosecute the building company? No, you cannot. If an employee gets caught, then the employee might get dismissed. That's it. So all this has to be brought under the definition of corruption. Now the Benami Act, which again today a new act has been put in. It's a tragedy. The Benami Act defines Benami. It says it prohibits Benami. It says all Benami properties will be confiscated by an appropriate authority, and it does not create the appropriate authority for 23 years. And you don't have to go to in fact it is stupid that today a new Benami Act has been put. There's no necessity. A notification could have been issued, and under the old Benami Act you could have created an appropriate authority. No need to go to Parliament. You didn't do that. 23 years. Now similarly, Prevention of Money Laundering Act. Under the Prevention of Money Laundering Act, only one investigating authority has been empowered, which is the Enforcement Directorate in the Ministry of Finance. So therefore, even the CBI cannot take action under the Prevention of Money Laundering Act. If it comes across money laundering, it has to write to the Enforcement Directorate. Therefore, in 6 years, they've only been able to confiscate 600 crore. So they should enlarge it. This is again a very simple thing to do. So some of these things are slipping under the radar. It's not being done in this whole debate about the Lokpal Act. Now, what do? We started the website, actually it started as a joke. Like every good thing, it started over a glass of beer. So he said, corruption we cannot stop, so let us find out the market price of corruption. Let people report, and we will report a mandi price. In Hyderabad, for getting a traffic violation, it is 200 rupees. Bangalore is slightly more expensive, we can do that. So we said crowdsource. But then when we hit upon the idea of crowdsource, we said, okay, fine, this is very rich data. We can begin to analyze it. And when you analyze it, when you look at the trends and when you start presenting trends, then you come up with a very different view. When you are data driven, as most of you know, sometimes counterintuitive solutions come to mind. So what we have done is, we study corruption prone systems and we recommend reforms. And in fact, we have come with something called the Citizens Advisory, the 10 commandments against corruption, which I will show you. We have actually 3 columns. I paid a bribe, I didn't pay a bribe, and I didn't have to pay a bribe. So you can report even good stories. And today what has happened is 13,850. In fact, since yesterday we are having a huge spike of reports because of all this agitation. But it's very interesting, 86% of the cases are I paid, but 10%, 1,300 cases are I didn't pay a bribe and I didn't have to pay a bribe. I answer individual questions also. We are probably today the world's largest repository of corruption experiences of individuals. And I request you to submit your reports. We do not take names. If you write in your name or if you write the name of the officer, we have a software that eliminates it. Because you will be subject to defamation if that person prosecutes you. And I, under the information and under the IT Act, I am obliged to reveal the information if the police comes to us. So we do not want to trade in accusations. If you have a complaint and you feel so strongly about it, please go to the Lokpal or the Lokayukta. But if you want to have a systemic, say in a systemic reform, then you submit it here. Now, just to give you an example, we analyzed 600 cases of registration corruption in Karnataka and found out that 80% of the cases, there was a private intermediary. So immediately the story becomes different. And we have now submitted a report to the government saying, please introduce anytime, anywhere registration, that I don't have to go to any office. I should be able to take my photograph, I should be able to post a photograph, I should be able to download a sale deed, enter my details, email it to the any registration office. I should be able to do a Tatkal booking. I should be able to go there. At that time, he shall deal with my application and no middleman should be allowed. This is a recommendation. Actually, Karnataka government has accepted the recommendation. We are helping them to reform the software. Similarly, we are doing this for the electricity sector, for the transportation sector also, for the driving licenses and for all over-the-counter transactions of the motor vehicles department. We answer frequently asked questions. Yesterday we've launched something called the Satyameva Jayate Awards. We felt that the whole debate was becoming name calling. People are just trading names and abuses. So we've launched something called Satyameva Jayate Awards, which says that the citizens can report initiatives on how corruption can be reduced. And we invite all of you to post your suggestions. Many of you in business might have experienced some good things also. Please report and we will put it to the vote. The last thing that on this page is we have taken up a new initiative on private sector corruption. On 16th, we had a huge rally organized by the employees of Electronic City in Bangalore. 12,000 people came, and we were not talking about Anna Hazare. The question was, what is it that you can do? And stories of private sector corruption started coming out. So there's a new group that has come out. They are calling it employeesforintegrity.com. The website is being set up, and we are partnering with them to do 3 or 4 things. One, we will organize training for employees on a regular basis. We designed the pedagogy, we designed the self-learning material, 1. Number 2, we are tying up with Transparency International to develop an accreditation system for integrity within companies. So companies can sign an integrity pact and not pay bribes. And the third is to have a reporting system, to create a corporate corruption reporting system by which people can report on instances of corruption, because as I said, we do not work unless we have databases. Thank you. That is where I'd like to stop. If there are any questions, I'd like to take it. Thank you very much.